This is a short video about some signs that are coming into view that would indicate that we are going to be heading towards some time of great turmoil on the earth. The Bible calls it in the Bible, when the second seal is opened, the red horse begins to ride, and we are told that he is to take peace away from the earth, and that he is going to be given a great sword. Okay, and when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And Revelation 6:4, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, comma, and that they should kill one another, colon, and there was given unto him a great sword. The reason I read these punctuation marks in here is because these are, in my opinion, describing some different type of events that will take place, one of which, of course, is going to be war. Okay, first of all, we are told that power was given unto him to take peace from the earth. The horse was red. Red, of course, is the color of blood. Red is the color of the dragon. Red is the color of China. You know, there's many connotations and many associations that one can make with the color red. Power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. So this is one aspect of this. That taking peace from the earth means that the society as we know it is going to break down. Okay, and this is going to happen as a result of the first seal being opened, which is this current world situation with this disease that is allegedly ravaging the world. But this has nothing to do with the disease. It's got everything to do with the economic devastation. It's said that the first horse was sent forth to conquering and to conquer. And what it is doing is that a conquest on the worldwide scale has taken place, but it is not a conquest by the disease. Because, even like if this disease is as terrible as they say it is, relatively few number of people have died, relatively few. When you're talking about 8 billion in population, and even if those 100, 200,000 numbers are correct, which they are not, then this means that that is a rather minor event as far as diseases, etc., are concerned. More people die every day, every year, from heart attacks and cancers and car accidents and every such thing than they have from this disease. So there is something else that is taking place, and that, my friends, is that the economies of the world are being destroyed right in front of our eyes. And as the economies are being destroyed, they are going to leave people impoverished. And when they are impoverished, then social order is dependent entirely upon economics. When there is economic stability, there is social order. When there is economic instability, then there is social instability. And that's what we are headed for. And that's what I believe, is that it'll be every man for himself, so to speak. Power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And it won't be just minor, riots and looting. It'll be really violent in many, many places where, people are out looking for food. And I was even watching this video about Lebanon and these protests, and these real, people are really scared, because they're not scared about the disease, but they're more scared about hunger. And that is one problem that will definitely arise. But the second thing that this horse is supposed to do is that tells us that there was given unto him a great sword. A sword, of course, represents battle. It represents war. And since this is a great sword, you can say there is great war, or wars that are upon the horizon. Can we say World War III? Well, just it's a very hot day here, and I got the fan on, so some people might hear some noise in the background, and I apologize for that. But I also wanted to mention that trailer for the movie Blackout that you just saw in the beginning. It's I have been kind of trying to think of the scenarios under which these war, especially a war with China, would develop. And one of the memes that has been floating around for a while now is a cyber attack on the electrical grid, cyber attack on the banking system, which would actually solve many problems for the world, especially for the U.S. With the Federal Reserve, just printing money nilly-willy by the trillions nowadays, not even billions anymore, is that that would wipe away all this debt and basically bring in a new system. It would be a one way of resetting the economic system, which must needs happen because as we go, as this old world is destroyed and the new world is brought in, a new money system also must be brought in. So if there is like a big cyber attack that does great damage to the electrical grid and also to the banking system, that would and then that would be, of course, be a perfect excuse for war. So that is the reason why I included that in there. What follows next is some clips. Okay, one of them is about this military outpost that has apparently been established by China in Indian territory. The way I see the sides, how they will shape up is there will be, of course, U.S., NATO, and India on one side with Australia, which I guess Australia is a part of NATO. So India, the U.S., NATO, the European countries, and India on one side, and the other side you could say would be China, Russia, Pakistan, Iran, and whatever, Korea, although North Korea, although I think that is an inconsequential country, which is just people keep that in the mainstream media like that's a paper tiger that really doesn't count for much. But that is how these teams would be formed, you could say. Okay, but of course the consequences, however it happens, it will develop in some way, shape, or form, or there could be some other completely unknown reasons that could be used to launch these wars. But these are just some thoughts that I have given as to how this might develop. So, like I said, what follows is just some news clips, and they are all again indicative. They are pointing to the sign. Like I said, in my opinion, the first seal has been opened, but the second has not yet been opened. And once that is open, then we shall see literally the zombification of the whole world, as well as World War III.
China on Monday called on the U.S. military to stop flexing its muscles in the South China Sea and to avoid adding new uncertainties over Taiwan during high-level talks that underscored the tension between the world's two largest economies. The remarks by Chinese Defense Minister Wei Feng to U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper, recounted by a Chinese spokesman, came just 2 weeks after a top White House official denounced Chinese intimidation in the busy waterway. It also came a day after Esper publicly accused Beijing of increasingly resorting to coercion and intimidation to advance its strategic objectives in the region. During closed-door talks on the sidelines of a gathering of defense ministers in Bangkok, Wei urged Esper to stop flexing muscles in the South China Sea and to not provoke and escalate tensions in the South China Sea, the spokesman, Wu Qian, said. China claims almost all the energy-rich waters of the South China Sea, where it has established military outposts on artificial islands. However, Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan, and Vietnam also have claims to parts of the sea. The United States accuses China of militarizing the South China Sea and trying to intimidate Asian neighbors who might want to exploit its extensive oil and gas reserves. The U.S. Navy regularly vexes China by conducting what it calls freedom of navigation operations by ships close to some of the islands China occupies, asserting freedom of access to international waterways. Asked specifically what Wei sought for the United States to do differently, and whether that included halting such freedom of navigation operations, Wu said, "We call on the U.S. side to stop intervening in the South China Sea and stop military provocation in the South China Sea." In a statement, Pentagon spokesman Jonathan Hoffman said Esper, in his meeting with Wei, noted China's perpetual reluctance to adhere to international norms. Secretary Esper pointedly reiterated that the United States will fly, sail and operate wherever international law allows, and we will encourage and protect the rights of other sovereign nations to do the same, Hoffman said. Despite warm words exchanged in front of reporters, Wei and Esper also discussed thorny issues, including Chinese-ruled Hong Kong, which has seen months of anti-government protests. They also talked about Democratic Taiwan, which is claimed by China as a wayward province and is the Communist Party's most sensitive and important territorial issue. Fang underscored to Esper China's position that it would not tolerate any Taiwan independence incident, Wu said, adding that it opposed any official or military contact with Taiwan. China has in the past threatened to attack if Taiwan, set to hold a presidential election next year, moves towards independence. The Chinese side also requires the U.S. side to carefully handle the Taiwan-related issue and to not add new uncertainties to the strait, Wu said. The exchange came a day after news that China sailed a carrier group into the sensitive Taiwan Strait, led by its first domestically built aircraft carrier.
China warning the U.S. against triggering a new Cold War. That's according to the Washington Post. The newspaper quoting the Chinese foreign minister as saying it is time for the United States to give up its wishful thinking of changing China and stopping 1.4 billion people in their historic march toward modernization.
Secretary Pompeo would likely be unable to certify that Hong Kong maintains a high degree of autonomy, and if that happens, there will be sanctions that will be imposed on Hong Kong and China. It's hard to see how Hong Kong could remain the Asian financial center that it's become if China takes over.
National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien says the U.S. may slap sanctions on Beijing over a new law which would threaten Hong Kong's independence. Benjamin Hall reporting live on the latest. Benjamin.
Yeah, hi Trace. And China is using last year's pro-democracy protests as an excuse to bring in this new law. They claim that last year's protests were a national security threat and they needed to be responded to. As a result, we have seen further protests over the past weekend with 120 people arrested, the tear gas fired all over the city. This new law from Beijing would ban treason, subversion and sedition against the Chinese government. Protesters worry that the law will open the door to mass arrests, letting Chinese spies and security forces operate freely in Hong Kong, effectively ending the one country, two systems principle. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien rallied behind them.
All Americans should watch what's happening on the streets of Hong Kong and realize on this Memorial Day, as we honor those who fell to keep us free, that the price of freedom is high. And the folks in Hong Kong are going to the streets and they're protesting to demand their very basic rights.
China's leaders today, however, vowed they would go ahead with the law. They called the protesters terrorists and said they were colluding with foreign forces. They also accused some political forces in the US of taking China-US relations hostage and pushing the two countries to the brink of a new Cold War. China has warned it would retaliate to sanctions.
I want to stress that Hong Kong is China's Hong Kong. If the U.S. is determined to harm China's interests, China will take any necessary countermeasures to fight back.
Many in Hong Kong now feel they are fighting the final battle against total Chinese control, and there are likely to be a number of big protests in the coming days and weeks. But the rest of the world are distracted, preoccupied with coronavirus, and we are seeing China push into so many different ways as a result. Trace?
Yeah, Benjamin Hall. Yeah, it's going to be an unusual new normal. Benjamin Hall live for us in our London newsroom. Benjamin, thank you.
And hello again, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez. To all of you who are watching from all over the world, whether you're doing so on regular TV or on portable TV, we are so glad that you are there. Today, the United States will likely hit the inglorious milestone of being the first and only country in the world to suffer 100,000 coronavirus deaths. What are the real numbers? We're going to break that down for you. We're going to tell you, and we're also going to show you just how ugly things have gotten overnight in Hong Kong. I don't know if you've seen some of those videos yet. But we're going to begin with a showdown between China and India. Yes, China and India. 800 to 1,000 Chinese soldiers have crossed over into India. The territory is disputed, but it's being called the worst border tension between these two countries in decades now. Let me do this. Let me go over to the map over here on the wall so we can show you the area that we're talking about. This is the region, I think we've mentioned this to you before, it's a region called Ladakh, right? It's described as one of the most beautiful places on earth. It's magnificent. Google it. You'll freak out. It's so pretty. But like many beautiful things, everybody seems to want a part of it. It's been a disputed region now since 1947 between Pakistan and India and China, all holding claim. But it's administered, and this is important in this dispute, it's administered by India. And that has generally been respected by, all three sides until now. Take a look at what's going on there right now. Let me show you these pictures. You see these? This is a satellite image from the Australian Policy Institute. It purports to show how 800 to 1,000 Chinese troops have crossed the border, right, and seem to be camping out now or holding their ground on the Indian side of the Galwan River Valley. Now, what you'll notice is you're not seeing troops. They're actually encampments, right, that they have now built in this region, right? Exactly why the Chinese troops have crossed over, not exactly clear. There's a lot of theories on it. What is clear is this. This that you're seeing right here in these satellite images, man, this is not sitting well with India. Not its military, not its media. Look at how this situation is being described by the network India Today. Take a listen.
Look closely at these pictures. They are the first images from the high-altitude Galwan River Valley in Ladakh. The first visual evidence of China's force buildup in a serious new standoff with India. Chinese durable tents, heavy-duty trucks and earth-moving machinery. Clear evidence that this isn't your everyday standoff. China plans to stretch this one out.
China plans to stretch this one out, says the host. Now, that's India's version. China's version is a little different, saying perhaps India has been pushing the envelope in the region, building it up. Indian military sources say they will engage in aggressive patrolling of this area. Aggressive patrolling. While there's also, by the way, there's also some reports that there are talks that have started between both countries, the military officials in this area, to try and somehow settle this dispute. But look, there's no question that these skirmishes that have now been taking place for more than a month, we've told you about it from time to time, not like this. This is escalation. The situation is escalating, and the situation is happening just as relations between China and the U.S. continue to sour as well. So as I conclude this video, we will keep our eyes, because, in the prophetic timetable, it's the second seal, the opening. That is really going to escalate things as far as the beginning of sorrows is concerned. By the way, Ladakh, which is in northern India, is a very beautiful place indeed. And my father was in the Indian Army, and he spent a considerable time up there, and he just loved it. So that region, because on one side is China, on the other side is Pakistan, and then we have India in the middle. And all these countries, if there is a real world war, it'll not just be limited to Europe or Eurasia in Russia and Europe, as the last one was, or with Japan. This is definitely going to involve these nations. The two biggest and most populated nations in the world, India and China, are definitely going to be a part of it. So is it any wonder that, if there is a great sword which is wielded, that a quarter of the Earth's population will die off, as we are told will happen during the time of the opening of the first world seals, during the beginning of sorrows. Thank you for listening. This is Paul Sandhu.
A las 4 de la tarde hasta las 4 de la mañana del día lunes. Es por su bienestar. No pueden haber establecimientos.
Estamos numa situação bastante complicada. Será que o pessoal não enxerga isso? Vai continuar me atacando, ofendendo, né? Me chamando de tudo, até me acusando de genocídio. Não dá para entender o que vai matar as pessoas para valer. Vai ser as consequências do desemprego.
Es una cosa injusta, porque nosotros vivimos del día al día, ¿sí me entiende? Están que mandan ayudas desde cuando, aquí no ha llegado nada. Y ahora van a haber 3 días encerrados nosotros en la casa. ¿Con qué le damos de comer a nuestros hijos?
shall be wars and rumors of war. Nation shall rise against nation, destroying all creation. Super rockets and bombing jets. Riots will break out in the streets. The man will come down on your head with a club. Famine, starvation shall sweep the earth. People killing people. Hatred, murder, and fear shall linger in every heart. Earthquakes and missiles, falling bombs. Children will betray fathers and mothers. The end will be near. Then shall rise the Antichrist with a number for your forehead, 666, and a number for your wrist. And darkness shall fall across the face of the earth. The stars shall fall from the sky. The moon shall turn red. And if you name the name of Christ, you'll be killed. Then Jesus Christ will come again.
Read
Rejoice